What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be breaking down Daniel Jeremiah's brand new 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is completely transparent. It is continuously being updated, and it is not predictive. It is just my genuine opinion about players that I love. Now, you might say the rankings are ludicrous. I respect it. I know that I am, but I also know that if I'm not being honest with myself, with my own eyes, then I don't get to learn what I did right and what I did wrong. So I'm not going to be somebody who cowers away. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be open and honest about my opinions. All these are through all 22 clips, and I actually end up posting some of those on X for you guys to see to back up my conclusions. If you want to support the show, feel free to use the UnderDog Fantasy code, which is going to be HAILMARY. You can put $10 or even more and they end up sending me $60. So it's a good way for you guys to be able to enjoy, have a little bit more skin in the game, but do it legally, do it responsibly. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time because I ended up seeing a sneak peek on Twitter of the Steelers pick, and I was just super excited. I did not realize he dropped number 2.0 today. Let's get into it. I am wearing a Jeremy Chin jersey because you guys know I'm like a closeted Panthers fan at this point. Not in the closeted sense, but more so in the fact that I'm a Steelers fan. Like, it's hard to admit, but I do like the Panthers. I've been notoriously overly high on them consistently throughout my entire time here on YouTube. But number one overall pick, the Titans go Abdul Carter. I think this is a very reasonable move. I do think that you could end up going after Cam Ward. You can go after Abdul Carter. There's not a wrong move to make at number one, which is a crazy thing to say, but I do think that the future is bright regardless of what you select, and that's a great place to be. Now, if you can trade out and somehow still manage to get Abdul Carter, that would be awesome. But do you want to run the risk of, how much do you value Abdul Carter over you could get like Travis Hunter? So there are those concerns. And so it certainly is up for debate as to how much you want to put stake into going number one overall with the player. But I do think Abdul Carter is the right move. The Browns go Cam Ward at number 2. The more I hear about him, the more I love him. Like, it's just, I'm going to be going back and finalizing my evals on the QBs because the last time I did one of those, it was even when Drew Aller was still a legitimate quarterback in this class. So I do need to make sure that all of that is fine and dandy. Cleveland Browns going Cam Ward. I respect it. It is a long-term move. The quarterback position is certainly not in place. At number 3, you got the Giants going Travis Hunter here. You're going after essentially BPA, and BPA absolutely makes it saves you a world of hurt. But if I'm in this situation, and I feel like I would want to at least try to trade back and get Shedeur Sanders, because in my mindset, it's a pick that's going to be a QB. Now, I would love for a situation for it not to be like this, where you can get Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, etc. But I just don't trust Joe Shane and Brian Dable to not make a self-preservation move, which would be to go after that quarterback route, try to buy them some extra time. I'm curious to see what they would end up doing if Travis Hunter ends up being the pick. He could end up being an immediate receiving weapon, but also he would just be their number one corner, which is going to be a massive addition there for New York. I'm just curious about how the quarterback situation would end up working out. But if you guys are fans of the teams in the top 6, you already have 7-round mock drafts on the show dropped. And I have my videos already for tomorrow as well. So Jets and Panthers will be dropping tomorrow. So Raiders all the way up into the Titans already have 7-round mock drafts. Feel free to go check them out. But, quarterback ended up being taken at 1 and 2 in the Giants 7-rounders. So it's intriguing to see how I ended up navigating that situation. Patriots go Will Campbell at number 4. This is just one of those picks that I'll never be on board with myself. I like Will Campbell. I think offensive line is never a bad move, but I just don't trust him as a tackle. If you trust him as a tackle, this makes a lot of sense. He is an SEC starter for multiple years. He is young. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Good movement skills, but I just have my concerns, and I'm not a big arm length guy. I don't care to that degree unless I see it pop up on your film, and I saw it pop up a notable amount of times for Will Campbell, so I'm just personally not the biggest Will Campbell guy there. Jaguars go Mason Graham. I don't know if Cohn would end up going after a defensive player when you have someone like Tet on the board who would fit his system, in my opinion, seamlessly, but Mason Graham is a great selection nonetheless. You can't really complain about it. Having 2 Masons for the future on the interior, never a bad move. Vegas Raiders go after Shedeur Sanders at number 6 overall. Personally, not a bad move. I don't think that's bad. Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback, and like I don't think he's worth a top 5 selection, top 10 selection, but at the same time, you got to take your swings on those high value positions. I respect it. Shedeur is not a bad quarterback in any way, shape, or form. At number 7, you got the Jets going Tyler Warren. And I remember the first time I made a Jets Tyler Warren pick. I think they were at like pick number 9 at the time. And it was like ludicrous. People's eyes bugged and all this stuff. And, it's just funny to see it now. But, Tyler Warren is fantastic. He's a great player. And something that I was honestly thinking of today, it was actually talking about like whether you should franchise tag players, which funnily enough, it ended up somehow being applicable to this. So let me weave it back to this. But essentially I was thinking about the value of a franchise tag, and you're looking at like the price, the cost savings, all this stuff. But I think something on top of that, and it also works into the value of a player, is not necessarily just the monetary value of savings / spending, but it's also the exclusivity that you have. There's not many tight ends. Like this is an exclusive buy-in to a top 5 to 10 tight end. Like if you have a top 5 to 10 tight end, there's no reason for you to get rid of them. So you have to draft it. You have to develop it. Like it's very rare that you'll be able to buy in or trade for it, I should say. So, I mean, maybe you could send a number 7 pick for, anybody but Brock Bowers. But you can't send a number 7 overall pick for Brock Bowers, in my opinion. And so you're buying your way in, and I really like the idea. You get yourself a safe, reliable weapon. I ended up waiting a little bit for tight end in my mock draft, but I personally respect this 100%. Ended up having some good players who ended up falling, though. At number 8, we got the Panthers going Jalen Walker. I just personally don't think of him as an edge. I think of him as a pure linebacker that has edge capabilities, and technically, you talk about Thompson, he's up for a contract, but I just can't see someone like that who has been an identity of a Panther just kind of walking away. But if he does, Jalen Walker fits in right away because he can end up helping out Wonham as well as Clowney in the pass rushing game. Honestly, I wouldn't mind that at all, but that's a big if. If you end up bringing back Thompson, I don't see the return on investment for Jalen Walker. And he's an amazing player, but I'm saying for a number 8 overall pick. The Saints at number 9 go Mike Green here, and I've talked about this before. I'm very surprised not to see, I'm surprised to see him this high. And it's not just me. I'm not confirming it. I'm just saying what I've been told. There are some legitimate, very serious allegations off the field for Mike Green. Started out in high school. He ended up having a no tolerance policy when he went to UVA, and it happened again, which is why he was no longer on UVA. So I will say, if it's true, and again, do your own research on this, there's probably not much of it out there that's public, so I'm very grateful, and that's why I'm not going to say like who said what and exactly what was said. But you could see there are a lot of people who I've never talked to who have been talking about this as well. It looks like it's something where it's legitimate. And if it's true, there's no place for that in the NFL. If you end up seeing him, like there's a chance if everything is like no pun intended, green lighted, he could end up going this high. But there's a chance he could become a UDFA if it's true, because there's just no place for people acting like that in the NFL. It is what it is. But the Saints get themselves a top-end weapon here in Mike Green. I would go after Tetro McMillan myself for an offensive coach. But again, fingers crossed that everything checks out. Number 10, the Bears go Kelvin Banks. I'm not the biggest Kelvin Banks guy again. Like, you guys know me at this point. I don't like his foot speed. I have some big concerns with him, even at guard for that matter. But getting a tackle with like guard early implications is never a bad idea, especially on the Bears where there's some inconsistencies there at left tackle. At number 11, the Niners go Will Johnson. There's a chance he does slip, and the injuries, like I don't know why he'd end up coming out necessarily if he was going to be, slipping out of the top 10. I do think he could end up being a top 5 pick in the next year when he ends up being healthy and reminding us that he is the number 1 player in a class. But regardless, the Niners, you can't pass up on best player available at that point. I'd be highly doubtful that that Saleh would end up allowing him to slip past. At 12, the Cowboys go Walter Nolan. It's certainly possible. I could see it. Yeah, like Osa Digizua, bye-bye. But also on top of that, Mozzie Smith's been kind of a bust. You would now have a new identity on the defensive interior. I wouldn't do it myself, but I think Walter Nolan's a very good player, but I still think that there might be some better return on investment there at 12. Dolphins go Tyler Booker at 13. I cannot see Chris Greer going after a guard on the first. But I think it'll be a great move if they do. And funnily enough, when I do my Dolphins 7-round mock draft, it'll just say, I think it says Greer, like, take offensive line or something like that. It's like my little catchphrase on it. So trust me, I want to wish this into existence. And Tyler Booker is so good. But this offense is so quick, I just don't think they'll value a guard at that rate. At number 14, you got the Colts going Armand Membu. Interesting. So it's talking about him playing right away at right guard. I don't see that being the position I would go. I mean, you could even go James Pierce if you wanted to, but looking at my board specifically, I'm looking at Ben Morrison here. I mean, we'll see if he even gets taken here. I know that there's some people who just are very against Ben Morrison, but like Ben Morrison would be a good fit in my opinion. Again, I'm not going to say that my guys who are at the top are the guys who should be going at the top because again, my board's not predictive, right? But then you also look even potentially at the running back range. But on top of that, I'm trying to see because my board is very different from the standard. Jahad Campbell would be super duper fun as a will linebacker and a quasi edge rusher in this system with Lou. But regardless, I think Azareye'h Thomas, Malachi Starks, of course. You could toss in Colston Loveland. I just think there's better picks in going after offensive line at 14. At number 15, you got the Falcons going Michael Williams. I just don't. Again, I feel wrong disagreeing with Daniel Jeremiah. But it's a pick I've done myself. I will just say Raheem Morris likes guys who can stand up in a 2-point. And I mean, at that point, you might as well go after James Pierce, who can go in a 3, 4, or 2-point stance and be very consistent. That's my opinion, though. At 16, the Cardinals go KG. Again, a guy who I totally see the ceiling on Kenneth Grant. And, if you take it and you end up getting your ceiling, you're going to be brilliant. You're going to be like a crazy, amazing, you're going to do a great job by taking someone who's D-Law-esque at 16, right? But I would say I think the probability is a lot lower than what people think because the inconsistency is through the roof. And I love Kenneth Grant. I think he has a great motor. Like, obviously, he literally tracked down. There's a video now going from 2023 with him tracking down Katron Allen, which is what I've been using since watching that game. But, just someone who is always going high tempo. And I heard that Trevor Sikkema ended up talking about him as like inconsistency being an effort issue. And I can't agree with that. I really think that he's a high motor player, and I really like that. So for the Cardinals, you're getting someone who will be a high character player in your locker room who has incredible potential. Again, when you have guys like James Pierce on the board, I just wouldn't do that. Jahdae Barron goes to the Bengals at 17. I don't understand what Jahdae Barron brings that Ben Morrison does not to a defense that Ben Morrison will work in, and Jahdae Barron is an off-zone corner. Like, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think Jahdae Barron goes round 1. Like, he's not ideal size, he's not an ideal athlete. He is great in space, and I honestly think if you want to use him as a safety, he could be a round 1 guy, but he was used in off-zone coverage a lot there at Texas. He was not the guy going one-on-one. And so when you end up looking at Al Golden's defense, do I think that Jahdae Barron would fit the same way that you look at Ben Morrison? No, because Ben Morrison literally fits that. So if you think Ben Morrison's not going to be a first-round player and will end up falling second, third, why not just wait on that then? Like, I don't understand forcing something. If you are just lower on Ben Morrison, he's a schematic fit, and he was a first-round player. So I'm curious to see if he ends up going in a little bit later. But even if he does, then it justifies with him going there above Jahdae Barron. Seahawks go Gray Zabel. I totally support this. Gray Zabel's fantastic. I mean, he is legitimately 5-position flexibility, not because he's not good enough at one of them, but because he's great at all of them. Legitimate potential, like a fringe starter as a tackle, even in my opinion. But like one of the best players I've seen in person. And it's insane because I'm not very big on the FCS offensive lineman, but he deserves it. Tedro McMillan falls to 19. I can't see that happening. But, I mean, even on my board where I am still lower on Tetairoa McMillan, he is higher than 19. So I'll just say that. But this would be legitimately perfect. I mean, it makes sense, but I can't see it happening. Colston Loveland goes at 20 to the Broncos. It makes sense. I mean, they were looking for their joker. There we go. Like, I know DJ knows his shit. So, like, that's again why I'm not going to say, like, oh, like, what is he doing? Like, he knows his stuff. But, I mean, we all make mistakes as humans. I've done like 1,000 mock drafts. So I am so used to mock drafting that I kind of understand the layout in my own head of what should go on. And if you're kind of going at this for first, second, third time, it is understandable, even if you know the players and know their value very well. Like, maybe it's a new perspective, which is why I also like doing mock the mock. It allows me to, discuss, differing opinions and differing fits that maybe I didn't see before. But, this could be that joker that they were talking about, an elite route running weapon at tight end or running back. Steelers somehow get Ashton Jeanty. This is what ended up getting me to fall in love with this. But, I think that this would be my dream pick for Pittsburgh over Ben Morrison, over anything. Like, any player in the draft going to Pittsburgh that is at least somewhat feasible, a la like not Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Even Travis Hunter, I'd want Travis Hunter over Ashton Jeanty for the Steelers. But regardless, I think Ashton Jeanty is legitimately the best player that we could ask for, especially for our offense. Chargers go Amari and Hampton at 22. I love him to death. I mean, this would just be incredible. A home run hitting weapon. And, again, I have him higher than Jeanty for fumbling reasons, but at the end of the day, who gives a crap? He is just a fantastic runner of the football. Packers go Josh Simmons, who has that guard tackle versatility. You will need some time to potentially rehab him into NFL condition, but I still think that, before the injury, he was my number 5 player in the class, and I pretty much stand by that. At number 24, we got the Vikings going Trey Henderson. I can't see them, but I mean, it is, to be fair, Jahmyr Gibbs-esque what Trey Henderson could do. I just don't really think the Vikings are in a position where you're going to be going for that style of back this early, right? I don't see the return on investment being like convincingly worth 24 when you could end up going after some offensive line value here, like Josh Connolly to play guard for you. Like, I'm trying to look because DJ's done a good job depleting the guys who I usually have here. So good on him, but Donovan Jackson especially. Donovan Jackson is probably the better example of somebody that I would personally want for the Vikings at 24. Of course, defensive interior, you could talk about some dudes, but, Donovan Jackson above all. Texans go Emeka Egbuka, get CJ Stroud, his weapon. I respect it. I do think offensive line needs to be addressed, but that would just be a round 2 issue instead. The Rams go after Darius Alexander, who I love. I mean, right now he is, where did I put him on my board? Now I'm tripping. He's at 28, but I think I'll end up dropping him to 38 because of his age. I'll drop him like an extra spot. It's like an ain't factor. He's 25 years old. And so, his talent is through the roof, but literally he's older than Penei Sewell. So, there also is that factor where, yeah, he should be dominating dudes who are 5 years younger than him. But I was like, wait a second, the draft's not over. Baltimore Ravens then go Shamar Stewart at 27. Ridiculous upside. I just haven't seen the Ravens develop defensive linemen enough recently for me to feel very confident in that fit. Lions go Donovan Jackson. I respect it. High-level player who can also fit in at tackle. Jahad Campbell goes to the Commanders. I would love a Swiss Army knife like Jahad Campbell. And then I love this. When he's allowed to rush, he flashes elite potential. That is brilliantly said. And, if you let him slip, he's going to the Eagles. So letting Dan Quinn get his own guy here, it's not something that I would necessarily go for off the top of my head. But the more I think about it, the more I love it, again, for the reason that I would not want him going to Philly. Bills then go Matt Golden here at 30. I like him. I like him a lot. Really good player. He's just outside of my top 40. But, boundary receiver, I will just say he seems to really like the geography of Texas, probably to be closer to family. But I've yet to really see him go and push himself into some colder climates. I'd be very curious to see how he'd respond to that. Chiefs go Josh Connolly at 31. Sometimes you just got to take the risk, but Josh Connolly's anchor has been a big question mark. I'd be a little bit concerned with the Chiefs' lack of developing tackle history, whether they could actually make that work. I'd prefer to go after Ozzie Trapilo personally and test him out at left tackle because he ended up doing both at the Senior Bowl, and I think he just has a higher floor, but Josh Connolly obviously has the higher ceiling. I just don't trust the Chiefs to get him there. And then at 32, the Eagles go Malachi Starks, the Georgia North. Malachi Starks at 32, you can definitely think about it, especially if you want to potentially put him in the slot, but I thought he was much worse as the slot this year than he was as a ranging free. So I don't really know if the Eagles have valued that. Again, you got some top tier edge rushers on the board. Luckily, Jahad Campbell is gone, so I love seeing that. But, I certainly think that with James Pierce on the board, probably would be the better position for Vic Fangio. But regardless, Ben Morrison as well. I do think a boundary corner with Isaiah Rodgers on the dip, and then especially Darius Slay potentially retiring as well. There's going to be a need for another boundary corner. So that's going to be my thought process there. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.